Hello, Eugene. Nice to have you.
Hi, Michelle. It's so honored to be here. How are you doing today? How are you?
I'm I'm great. I'm great. I am so fortunate to have the man here with me today. Uh, Craig warned me that you are a handful, so I'm going to do my best with you.
Don't listen to Craig, okay? Don't Craig is another subject for another day, okay? All right, okay,
All right.
okay. So we hung out together. We hang out together. So I'm just like a different person with him. So it's all good. So
It's all good. How are you today on this Friday after the
uh,
snowstorm?
it's where the sun is out and the snow is melting, and so I hope to get back to some normalcy in my life because I'm not a snow person. I like to settle maybe 1 or 2 inches and it's over with, but when it gets to 4 or 5 inches, it's a mess. So I have to deal with it mentally and physically. So yeah, yeah,
I hear you. I hear you. Well, hey, listen, I have known you for a few years, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to joining me today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter. You have been an inspiration to me since the moment I met you at Craig Kramer's house and hearing your story. Today, we're going to talk about this important topic. Something I think needs more light shine on it, and that's veteran mental health and
yeah.
PTSD. And I know this is something that's near and dear to your heart. But first, just a little bit about my series, Michelle's Conversations That Matter. My goal with the series is to elevate the conversation about mental health, to shine a light on important topics like this one, to have subject matter experts and passionate storytellers on to humanize mental health. So I'm always grateful when people like yourself are courageous enough to come on, talk about something you're passionate about, but also something that you've experienced. So thank you for being here again. And
Thank you, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
introduce yourself, Eugene, just so the audience knows who I'm talking to today, like who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Michelle. I'm Eugene Marsh, of course. Born and raised in South Carolina during the 1960s, during the turbulent time of segregation and racism. Fast forward, I volunteered for the United States Army, served 3 years, and served 2 in Vietnam. Uh, that was a very difficult time for me as a Vietnam veteran, and then transitioned to built my own construction management company. Well, 18 years was a museum here in Princeton, New Jersey, and was my last official project was the renovation of the Statue of Liberty in 2012.
Wow.
That was an icon of a project that I never conceived and never envisioned that I would have the opportunity to be a consultant or a consortium on such an international project. Um, Lingered my personal life as to where I was and where I wanted to go, and understand that my purpose in life had not been defined. I was still searching for it. And my mental health, being a Vietnam veteran, I was diagnosed with PTSD several years after the Vietnam War, unknown to me of the symptoms that I was experiencing and the challenges that I was having, and the difficulty of just navigating through life, unknown to me of the symptoms and the bureaucracy and the turbulence time that where I became a homeless veteran during the 1970s when I came back from Vietnam for about 2.5, maybe 3 years. I was transitioned from the Vietnam War to where I was unemployed and subdued to concerns about the Vietnam War, how the country was so divided, and there was so much animosity about those who were against and those who was for the war. And so I was caught in the middle. And as an African American Vietnam veteran, it was not a walk to the park to have served in the Vietnam War and to be honored and to be recognized for your accomplishment. And yet, it sort of gave a very negative experience of young men who served in the Vietnam War. Um, I lingered with my ability that I wanted to go back to school or go to school to get a college degree, and I did so in my late 50s, where I was struggling with what did I want to accomplish and what was my goal, and
Mhm.
I set out and obtained an associate degree from Mercer County Community College in 2010, and there I transferred. I realized that if I can get an associate, why not go ahead and get a bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
So I went to Rider University in 2010 and 2014. I graduated with honors and was the commencement speaker of my class. And I continued my career path, continued my education. I attained a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Rider University. I am truly an alumni of Rider University. I have a footprint on their campus, and but I am currently now pursuing a doctorate in education leadership at Rider University.
And all of this was spurred on by your healing, correct? Your
Yes,
PTSD journey and
yes,
your
yes,
strong desire to help
yes,
those coming back from war, coming back from service, transition, right?
yes. And that was for many of the veterans like myself, from all walks of life who came back from the Vietnam War struggle in terms of how to reintegrate into their communities with their families and not having direction and not having support or resources that will help us to be able to be productive citizens. Not all, but some. But those who were not unable to get the services that they need, like myself and many other thousands of other veterans, we were locked out of the system, or the system did not see us as far as being veterans who were suffering from mental illness. And my journey evolved with my own experience, having grown up in South Carolina during the times of the '60s, during the time of segregation, and during the times where I had to fight every day to survive. And that's what took on a life of its own in Vietnam, and then post-Vietnam, it's the same way. So I continued to struggle, but there was a yearning within me that there was like taking a orange and pulling away the peel, or the peel away the peels of the onion, of the orange, to
Mm-hmm.
get down to the core of what was there, what was really at the heart and soul of me, and I
Mm.
did not know what that was.
Mm. So how did you heal? How did you find the healing from your PTSD, or is PTSD something you continue to live with and you've just figured out how to navigate it?
Continue to live with it, Michelle. Diagnosed in 1995, with happened to be submitted to the VA hospital in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I crashed, with everything that was going on around me. I was in the construction company and, doing my career path and career development. And, when I was diagnosed at the VA hospital in New York City, is when I learned that I was a Vietnam veteran with PTSD. I never heard the terminology, never knew what the terminology meant or how the terminology came about. But it also allowed me to go into mental health counseling,
Mm-hmm.
with not only personal counseling, but also group counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I began to reveal the pain that I had been carrying around for 20 some odd years from the Vietnam War until 1995. And so it took a lot. It took years, Michelle, to begin to heal from the wounds of the Vietnam War, and what I witnessed and what I observed in my own combat experience. I was 11 Bravo. I was a foot soldier in Vietnam.
Mm.
So I was integrated into combat, more times than I can count. But
Mm-hmm.
the time that it would become so isolated that it's just a job that you have to do, and you're not realizing, whether or not you're going to survive or not, was what the clock was ticking every day to go out into the jungles in Vietnam and to come back. You just have to. I had to really think about, what was my purpose and what would I do. And my life in Vietnam, Michelle, was, I didn't expect to come back from Vietnam. I did not think that I was. Uh, my experience in Vietnam sort of left me, because I was poor, black, uneducated young black man in Vietnam War, and the number of African Americans, there were 25% of the African Americans who was in Vietnam, and they were 12% of the U.S. population. So the numbers was different in terms of men like myself serving the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
But the tragedy of it is that the Vietnam War capitalized on poor and young black men and Hispanic men from the South who was inundated into the war because of opportunity, but yet the substance of their welfare was not
Yep.
provided to them.
Yep. Yep. Man. How do you, oh, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. How do you navigate that now to this day? Eugene? Like, I know, you are an advocate of therapy, you're an advocate of the group therapy, as you mentioned, but how do you manage that day to day now? Because I have loved ones who still struggle with that.
Michelle, is every day. It's
Mhm.
every day to where I have to get up with I have to think of positive, how what I want to accomplish each day, look and take a positive outlook and not let myself become depressed or
Mhm.
subdued or have the imprint of what may trigger my thoughts of the war. And there are times when I'm thinking when I have a flashback or memories of the Vietnam War where, men that I served with died in my arms, or men that I saw wounded. Um, just to have that thought in my mind, it's called impacts me to have time to think about my pain that I still have today. That and the recovering from that is nowhere in the future for me. I will continue to be affected by PTSD, but I continue to understand that the intervention and prevention of this mental illness is what I have to learn how to control my environment. What I
Yeah.
need to do to understand that there are certain things in life that what is where where it may be expected or not expected to happen, but I have to be able to adjust based upon how I pivot from a situation, so I will not allow it to pull me into the circle. Uh,
Mm.
and but I think when I see young men and women who are serving in the military, it's gratifying to know that they are serving, but it's also concerned about their mental health experiences because in the Vietnam War, Michelle, it wasn't until 1995 when the VA began to actually diagnose or come up with a symptom of PTSD. So it was a long time period. It was a denial of
Yeah.
veterans not being diagnosed with mental illness. There was a mental illness, but it
Yeah.
wasn't PTSD. And it was a young man by the name of Dr. Jonathan Shea, a psychiatrist in Boston, Massachusetts, came up with the terminology of PTSD. So
Mm.
that was a conduit to begin to address veterans who were experiencing combat trauma, sexual assaults, all the issues that was imprint upon the veterans themselves wasn't just monumental that no one could really put our hands on it, Michelle, because it was so large. It was like no one knew how to address it. It was a
Right.
learning curve to get the
Right.
men and women into counseling.
Right. So what are you up to? You're going for your doctorate. What are you hoping to, how are you hoping to impact this landscape?
Well, let me give you some background,
Sure.
Michelle, and thank you for that question. I my path has been laid out in a way that I never imagined or either considered the fact of where I am today and what will my life career challenges be, what opportunities I have. I am currently serving on the Veterans Advisory Board of Philadelphia, called the VCAB,
Okay.
Veterans Advisory Board. I am a member of. I've been a member since 2017. The Veterans Community Advisory Board is a board that addresses disparity of health care for all veterans. And as a board member, we respond to CHIRP, which is the organization that oversees the health care for the VA. And we interface with researchers who come to us with proposals as to what are they proposing to do and how we as a board member, diverse board member, see that study being proactive and being addressing the needs of community of color and those who are in the diversity population. So we are the eyes in there. So we scrutinize the study. We give them suggestions of what they need to go come back to us and give us more information so we can buy into it. If we don't buy into it or we don't give them the green light, then that study goes away. Uh, in 2019, I was recently appointed to the Department of Veterans Affairs Central IRB Board in Washington D.C. Such an honor, Michelle.
Mhm.
Uh, I received a phone call from Washington. Conversation led to the fact that Mr. Marsh, we like to consider you as a member of the board, the IRB board, which is a very important board, Michelle. It's a
Mhm.
board
Mhm.
that addresses the equity and the disparity of healthcare and ensure that veterans from all walks of life have the same resources and same medical attention that they deserve and not be squandered or not be neglected. So by being on the board as a member of the IRB, it gives me an opportunity to advocate, but also give me an opportunity to discuss what the issues are in terms of the IRBs being brought to the board, and what are the outcomes expected of the IRB in terms of successfully providing resources and healthcare for veterans.
Nice. Look at you. Look at you, what you're up to. It's really incredible and deeply inspiring. We have a comment here from Kevin. Thanks for joining, Kevin. Kevin says you're very much an inspiration, giving back to veterans and educating us all about PTSD. What do you want us to know about PTSD? What do you want the average person to know about PTSD as it relates to our veterans?
Michelle, that's an excellent question. Let me just go back just a little bit. I am pursuing a doctorate at Rider University. That's another topic, but it's such an honor to be in the doctoral program at Rider University. I just completed my second year, going into my second year. It's a 3-year program. My dissertation is focused on veterans transitioning from the military to higher education.
Awesome.
That's my goal. That's my dissertation is to find a way to find solutions that we can close the gap.
Yeah.
And we can pivot those young men and women who are transitioning to higher education, because the post-GI Bill is a footprint for many of the veterans who are unable to go to college, but the GI Bill affords them an opportunity that they can now use the GI Bill to go to higher education.
Right.
And what I believe is not only in my dissertation that I'm writing, but it's also a fact of how can we best serve our young men and women who are transitioning from the military, because they're leaving a structured environment to a unstructured environment on campuses, and some of the institutions are not prepared for transition veterans. They're still struggling. They have an application process, but I don't think they have a pulse on what the needs of the veteran in terms of them being successful. So my dissertation will focus on transition, but it also equips the veterans who are seeking to go to college, helping them to narrow their focus, that they can select a major that is aligned with their interests and their MOS, but also gives them the ability to transfer their skill sets that they have learned in the military, and how applicable those skill sets that they have learned. Because I think the person who's in the military, they have a limited skill sets. I think they are individuals who can do multiple things. It's just a matter of civilian being able to translate or transfer those skill sets into a meaningful job. And those young men and women who are struggling with their maybe struggling with transitioners, struggling with skill sets, but also, Michelle, struggling with mental illness as well. With TBI, mental illness, substance abuse, depression, substance abuse, sexual assaults. So those issues are compounded within the veteran population. And you see the person, but you don't know the inner person. What he or she has experienced in life, and what they're trying to accomplish. So it helps for me. And I use this word very carefully, Michelle. I've been there and done that. Okay, I've been on the ends where I was homeless for 3 years. I felt that I had no purpose in life. I felt that I was just a person who was just taking up space that had no purpose, had no meaning. And some of the veterans are having the same experience today.
Yeah.
The suicide, the average of 22 veterans suicide daily, 22, Michelle. Just recently in the New York Times, they spoke about the fact that the Department of Veterans Affairs is trying to increase greater awareness about suicide.
Right.
And as you may have read in the papers about the Marines, and I think the Marines and the Air Force have the largest number of suicides to date in the military. So those numbers keep increasing. But what is it that the military is doing to minimize or to ensure that these veterans are not put in a situation that they want to take their lives? And I think there's a question as to what do we need to do more to ensure that we serve our veterans and not leave them helpless and hopeless, because there's too many young men and women who are committing suicide, too many, 22 a day. But still, the fact of it is, there's not been a common denominator or a concern as to what can we do to minimize them or have more education, more intervention, more prevention about suicide. So it'll be a worldwide policy and procedures. And also for me, Michelle, is to not just the veteran, but the veteran's family. You have to bring the veteran's family into the process, because that is the key of veteran survival. And if you're only treating the veteran, it has to be a holistic for the veterans and their families to understand that his or her transition and
Yeah.
the challenges they may have in being isolated, not
Yeah.
speaking to family members, unemployed, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, it just domestic abuse. Those issues can be very position of understanding that veteran is facing challenges.
Right, right. I have had the pleasure of interviewing quite a few different people in the space of veteran mental health and PTSD, and one of them actually gave me an education about how like you were saying about how appealing it is for young men and women to go into service if they're in low income communities, and that is appealing to them for education purposes and for their future. But the reality that he was explaining to me is that when they return from service and go back into their low income communities, are they getting the support that they need for any type of mental health condition, right? Is
Yeah.
the community, is there access for them like there would be in an affluent community?
As President Biden just nominated, I think his name is General Austin to be the Secretary of Defense,
Mhm.
and he acknowledged that the military force is 40% people of color, 40%. So you see the population of young men and women who are in the military, but they are also coming from disparate communities, urban communities, where the lack of resources. So
Yeah.
they're taking the opportunity. They, meaning veterans, they are joining the military to get our hands up. Because if it wasn't for the VA and offering a GI Bill, that's that
Yeah.
is a that is a resource within the fines that I can go to military. I can serve my 2 years or 4 years or 5 years time frame, and I can go to school in GI Bill. Well, if they had not gone to the military, without the GI Bill, they could not afford to pay tuition and expenses they have been required to go to a private or public school. So it's a win-win, but it also for me, Michelle, as I am speaking to you as to uh, the veterans transitioning with the TPA and
Mhm.
understanding who they are and what they have experienced they have to have a baseline to ensure that when he or she returns home, they're not forgotten. That you don't just put them back. You don't not put them like for me when I served in Vietnam. They actually told us to go home. Don't call me, and we won't call you. Okay, so that
Yeah.
that was
That's
the
not
reality. That was the
Yeah.
reality. And these young men and women who are returning home now, many of them does not know what to do, does not know whether or not they want to go to college or they want to start a business. Whatever option they may have, they're struggling with the mental health issue, and I think that's a very important step to address. On if nothing else, the baseline of mental health and disability should be the foremost issue to address with the veteran to ensure that he or she has a better transition and not just leave it up to them, but have a way to follow up and follow through.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm equally as passionate about that as well. I mean, these are the brave men and women who have put their lives at stake, have had to go through so much to protect this country. It's the least we could do to make sure that they're well supported. When you and I spoke before this interview, you were sharing with me that a lot of people have helped you along the way. And because, and you're grateful for it, but I can only imagine that it is so hard for people to ask for help. Why should those who are suffering or embarrassed reach out and ask people for support or for help?
I think that's an excellent question, Michelle. I think it's the stigma that this relates to mental health and mental illness that resonate with veterans because they are so proud. They have served their country in distinction with their military uniform, and I think it speaks to the level of the individual that I know well. I want to reach out and say yes. You have done a great job, but I also believe that if there's going to be any way to address the disparity, we have to begin to change the format of education so that it be the foremost, and so it be the footprint for
Yeah.
veterans. I also believe that for me, and I just say for me, and I'm using the word me as my own experience. What I endured during my transition with PTSD was very difficult. It was very difficult in terms of relationships. It was very difficult in terms of trust. It was very difficult in establishing a meaningful life because I was so embedded in terms I was in a state of just wanted to be the best person that I could be, but
Yeah.
yet though there was turbulence in my life that caused me difficulties, and I think that when veterans they are reluctant to ask for help because of being ashamed. They
Yeah.
feel like they are weak. They
Yeah.
feel like they have worn a uniform for their country, and yet here they are now, and sitting in the classroom or in the community, wherever, and they have to ask, raise their hand, and say, "Can you help me?" For
Yeah.
me, Michelle, I just had to take off, that armor that I wore,
Yeah.
that protective shield that I carried around me, with me and around me, because I didn't want no one to know who I was.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt very vulnerable because of the fact that I wanted to um, I want to master a certain image, and yet though this image was destroying me, and yet when I began to reveal who I am as a person, I am now a better person because of that. I'm a better person because of the ability to ask for help. And when I ask for help, it's given to me in ways that I am very thankful during my transition. Not just I cannot. There are numbers of people, and I mean, this the world is made up of people who are willing to help you. They
Yeah.
are out there. They're not looking to diminish you or look down upon you. They're there to say, based upon your head and your heart, how do you want to be? What do you want to do, and how do you want to do it? And
Yeah.
I think for me as a Vietnam veteran as a student, I found that I am very successful in terms of the people that have come in and through my life who have made a difference, who have taken me under their wings and allowed me to soar with them and to see opportunities that I never imagined that existed. But
Mm.
also the fact that uh, the opportunities to give back, Michelle, the
Yeah.
opportunity just to give freely
Yeah.
and to open to possibilities have really helped me to be a better person and to look beyond the glitter, look
Mhm.
beyond the star, look beyond where we are and see, okay, what can I do and how can I do it? And so my passion today is working with the veteran population, having an opportunity to serve on two different boards, but just being in the community where veterans are is
Mhm.
gives me a thrill to say here I am at this stage in my life that I have been able to go to Vietnam and transition into corporate America, and now I'm on the verge of obtaining a doctorate. And
Yeah.
that doctorate, Michelle, will enable me not only to provide education, but also explore other options and other opportunities that will bring changes within the VA. Because this is a continuation of
Yeah.
where I am today. So I'm learning every day. I learn new things about myself, but I'm also learning things about what can help me help veteran population.
You're amazing. That's absolutely amazing to see you giving back and wanting to do more. You had said to me when we met, going back to the head and the heart, you said to me that once they saw your heart and not your head, things started to change. What did you mean by that?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Learning how to forgive, learning how to forgive and to be open, and to have someone that can speak to you in a way that's impactful, that is inspirational, that is motivational, and give you the courage to go forward. Um, Humble, just being
Mm.
humble,
Mm.
just having humility, just having a way that you can sit down and be with individuals and
Yeah.
just listen to what other people have to say and to chime in when necessary, link in if necessary, but just listen.
Yeah.
And it helps me. I cannot. I mean, the individuals, I mean, the people that have come into my life, like Craig Kramer, I call him my big brother. He's my big brother. He's been awesome. Johnson Johnson, Johnson Johnson family is awesome. Uh, uh, my involvement in the community with people that have allowed me to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, regardless of regardless of anything else. It says we want Eugene Marsh here.
Yeah.
And that to me, it speaks humility about being humble,
Yeah.
and just giving an opportunity to share. But it's always constantly, Michelle. It's always constantly is what can I do differently? What can I do better for other people?
Yeah.
What is it that I am looking to do? What am I looking to accomplish? It's not about me. It's not about putting medals or putting awards. It's about transitioning people's lives that they can have a better quality of life.
Right.
I'm hoping that I pray that my life will be an instrument, will be a footprint
Yeah.
for other young men and women who I come in contact with can see the possibilities of what they can accomplish.
That's amazing. Wow. I'm so touched by you. I'm so moved by who you are and the contribution that you are committed to being in the world. When we think about veterans and we think about the pain of PTSD, I think a lot of times we misunderstand them because they lean to vices that help them just soothe the pain. I think, addiction is always a topical of what's really underneath, right? Like the pain of what's underneath.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do about the connection with addiction and understanding PTSD when it comes to our veterans?
I know that suicide is an alarming number. Addiction, is a factor in terms of veterans who may not acknowledge that they have a substance abuse issue, or they find it to be an excuse to say that they can have a comorbidity of a mental illness and a substance abuse disorder. I think it's important that, and I use the word again, it's the family that has to be able to step up and step in,
Yeah.
provide their resources to their veteran, and what struggles. And I can get into some stories that I have been involved in, Michelle, and just relating to trying to give the family some information that will help them transition with their family member, because the substance abuse and mental health and those mental disorders are impactful for the veterans who are unable to navigate through the process. And until we can find a way to address the substance abuse and the mental illness and the comorbidity of issues of mental health, we're going to be finding ourselves struggling with veterans who are unable to transition. Some of them are in difficulties in terms of the mental health issues. They're in counseling for drug abuse. So it's a factor that we have to be very cognitive about. How can we best serve them? I don't have an answer. I have written several papers during my dissertation on various topics, including PTSD and suicide and TBI. But I also believe that substance abuse is just aligned with PTSD and suicide. Is all in that domain.
Yeah. How do we support those that we love who we suspect might be struggling? And it could be a veteran and it could not be a veteran. It might just be someone who's dealing with PTSD. How do we extend ourselves? Like I love what you said before about generosity and listening and just being there. But like, what if they don't want to talk? How do we reach them?
I think we have to take one step. We have to take one step and one day at a time. To confront a person. I think that's for me is to say, here's a problem. We have to you like to have an 800-pound elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We got to find a way. We got to say, look, we enough is enough. We have to be able to draw conclusions and say we identified the problem. We know that the problem exists. We know that this person may be not interested or in a state of denial about his or her disability, and yet the idea is to give them some options, give them the resources that they could possibly consider. And sometimes, Michelle, you may have to it may have been a tough love. You may have to just go out and say, look, we have to do this. We cannot go down this road because if you do continue down the road, this may happen to you. So what alternatives are there for you to consider? And I think it's important that we, and families struggle with members who are having for mental illness or substance abuse or attempted suicide. we have to find a way to go beyond our norm and get the resources outside of our homes and our communities to where people can come in and help us. We cannot do it by ourselves. It's very difficult when you have a member of your family who is struggling with mental health or disability, and he or she is not willing to go outside or they're willing to seek help. And I think the VA, as I am aware, the VA does offer services to veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, Michelle, in the New York Times last month, veterans who receive a less than honorable discharge would now be able to get upgrade to their discharge and get an honorable discharge. And there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of veterans who got less than honorable. So just think about those young men and women who got a less than honorable discharge, who will now be able to file a claim and get an upgrade. And look how many of those veterans are going to be seeking mental health and substance abuse, whatever the reason that they got a less than honorable discharge, where they can now come back into the VA and get the help that they need.
Mm. There's a lot of work to be done in this space. You agree?
I agree, Michelle. I'm hopeful. I'm very optimistic about the future. My work is not done. Our work is not done. There's more work to do to advocate and to be a spokesperson to address those issues within our community, and also not on a platform on a national level. So I feel that these opportunities for me is to be the spokesperson for healthcare, to be the spokesperson for the inequality of healthcare for veterans who are not receiving the care that they need, and they should be equal. They should be equal in quality for every veteran, no matter who they are. But yet the disparity does exist, and I think that and to realize that we are still combating some issues within the VA. I think the VA is doing a decent job, but there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to give them a gold plate yet. I think there's because when you have veterans who are transitioning and they're unable to get the mental health services and the complaints that are filing with the VA, it's very troublesome to know that we're not doing it. We're not doing our job, or the VA is not doing their job to better serve the veteran population.
So fast forward and you have your doctorate. What area of focus are you going to go in? Where are you going to put your energy with your lived experience and your doctorate? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm in the process of writing my memoirs, a book.
Nice.
Which I have been on. It's been ongoing for several years now, and I'm at a point where I think I'm going to be able to drop it and put it in someone's hand and help me get it out between now and 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I will be able. I will continue to advocate, but I will continue to be a voice for the voiceless. I will continue to be a veteran for the veteran population from all walks of life, and to be an ambassador, to be a person that can stand up and say these are the issues that are impacting our veteran population. And I'm hoping that my doctorate degree, will be an introduction to other opportunities that I can explore as I continue to explore where I am and where the VA is and what I can do to help that. I don't know, career wise, I may end up and I may get a teacher's position, professor's position, whatever. But I also know that my duty is to ensure, my responsibility is to ensure that veterans are not neglected.
Amazing. Amazing. The world is lucky to have you. You are incredible.
I'm lucky to have the world, Michelle. I'm lucky to be here, and I don't take anything or anyone for granted. It's too important for me.
Well, I could talk to you all day long, but I want to keep this to a good length here. Is there anything else you want to share? I give you the floor. Anything else that you want people to know? Any message that you want them to hear that you haven't already shared?
I remember, Michelle, growing up in South Carolina in the 1960s, and difficult times with racism, segregation was a way of life for African Americans. And as a young kid in South Carolina, I did not know if I had a future or not. There was no roadmap for me to follow. No one, no one inspired me and said you go to college. It was what I had to do every day to survive. And from that experience, I went into the military thinking I would escape racism to some degree with poverty, but I didn't. And then Vietnam War had a different turn, had a different direction for me.
Mm-hmm.
As a 19-year-old kid from South Carolina who ended up going to Vietnam as a 11 Bravo foot soldier. I had a high school diploma, but I was reading on the 5th grade level. I had a high school diploma, but I was reading on the 5th grade level when I graduated from high school. I had a speech impediment. I was afraid to reach out and ask questions because I did not want to be embarrassed by being considered less educated or not aware of how to communicate. But through the days of my own journey, and I serve on the United Way board here in Mercer County, and it's a board that which I cherish because it gives back to the community, it gives back to those who are less fortunate, it gives back to individuals who are struggling. And as a young man of color who grew up in South Carolina, knowing what poverty is, I can truly relate to where I am today. And if I can take anything from this, I want individuals to know there's no matter where you came from, but where you're going.
Yeah.
Where are you going? And how do you plan to get there?
Mm-hmm.
You can hold on to the past, and I think the past is a good footprint, but also it tells about the person's yearning.
Yeah.
It tells about the person's I call it the what word to call grit.
Yeah.
Do you have the grit? Do you have determination? What is it that you're looking to do? And I expand my horizon, but I also focus on the fact that there are so many individuals out there who are willing and are able to help me get there. And like you, Michelle, and like others who have come into my life for unknown reasons, because I had no idea. It just how we connected together speaks to the level of communicating with people. And as I said to you, as I said to you in my own way, it's just being humble, just being open to possibilities, and not been a closed mind to what's been offered to you, because you never know. That one door that you were looking for is not that far away. So
amazing. Amazing. We have a lot of people who want to connect with you, Eugene. How do people find you? How do they connect with you and follow your work?
But social media is Eugene Marsh Twitter, Eugene Marsh that. But I have a Marsh. My email address is marshe@6to6.em@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah.
And they can follow you. We're connected here on Facebook together. They can connect with you if they're interested. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I welcome that, Michelle. Yes, they can. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Eugene, for giving us some of your time. The next time I talk to you, you'll be Dr. Marsh, and I can't wait. And I'm excited for you. And the world is a better place because of the good work that you're doing and your passion. And I'm honored to know you and call you my friend. And thanks for spending an hour with me.
I am now your big brother. I'm now your big brother. Okay. All right. Okay. This is where we are right now. No, thank you, Michelle. And you are such a
amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.